The Landlords Association in Berkeley, California held a party, and this is sick, to celebrate being able to kick people out of their homes again. They were celebrating the end of an eviction moratorium that was introduced at the start of the pandemic in March of 2020. However, in all their excitement to be able to make people homeless, the party turned into chaos when a fist fight broke out. Now let's get into some of the details. The party was being thrown by the Berkeley Property Owners Association, which is not a job, by the way. Owning a building is not a job. But below is the invite that they circulated. Let's pull this up. It says in celebratory font, the end of the eviction moratorium, drinks and appetizers provided. Again, reminder, what they're celebrating is the ability to evict people from their homes, which is, of course, not everyone who gets evicted ends up unhoused. A lot of people do, but once you have an eviction on your record, it becomes damn near impossible to find housing, stable, semi-permanent housing. It's just something you should just throw out the window because that is a massive scar on your record. Now, some more facts from Insider about this disgusting event. The Landlords group held the party, which was attended by about 24 landlords at the Freehouse in Berkeley on Wednesday evening. About 100 advocates from various groups, including the Berkeley Tenants Union and the Tenant and Neighborhood Council, turned up to picket the event. Now, of course, there's some deep irony in hosting an event where you're celebrating evicting people at a location called the Freehouse, but we don't need to get too far into that. Now, a local news outlet said that the protesters showed up and were calling the landlords in attendance parasites, and they were yelling chants. We have some pictures from their protest. One protester brought a cake that said, "Hey landlord, get a real job." And I do love that very much. But we have another picture here of them picketing outside of the location, holding up signs that say "No peace for evictors." Now, according to the local media outlet, the protest lasted a little over a minute before multiple fights broke out.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, now the BPOA did not immediately respond to Insider's request for comment, but in a statement posted on social media, it said this in part: "We condemn the actions of hostile dissidents who disrupted a private gathering at a local restaurant to intimidate, harass, and physically assault our members who are law-abiding small business owners." The most, patriotic thing you could be. Noble profession of owning property and being a slumlord. Now, the association accused local police, who also did not respond to Insider's request for comment, of doing little to stop the violence, which is interesting because usually the police are 100% on the landlord's sides, particularly when it comes to carrying out evictions. But they said this: "We are equally disappointed by the lack of action by the city of Berkeley and its police officers who arrived on the scene and did not remove individuals who were causing harm and threats. Instead, when officers shared that they would not do anything as this was political, we do not believe in barging into a local restaurant to disrupt, throw things, and shove people is political. It is wrong." We couldn't show the footage because it's owned by a local news station. One of the landlords slapped a woman. A male landlord reached across the fence and slapped a female protester to the ground. I mean, for them to frame, first of all, hosting this party in the first place, but then the behavior that they exhibited to frame themselves as victims. I mean, it's expected coming from landlords, but.
So again, I wanna just briefly give voice to the voiceless here, the landlords, and say the most reasonable of these people would say it's not this disgusting belief that you enter into an agreement with somebody, meaning a lease. It's not this disgusting thing to expect the renter to live up to their end of the bargain, meaning the lease that they signed, the price they agreed to pay, yada 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 yada. That's what the most reasonable person in that position would say. However, I spent some time in the UK this summer on vacation, and I was talking to somebody, and they're like, "Oh, you guys are so lucky. You get to have second properties, and you get to rent them out to people and make money and blah blah blah." Here in the UK, we have these onerous taxes on second properties, and they make it impossible for you to go out and just own another property. And I was like, guys, if you want to start a business, take that money that you were gonna use for that second property, go start another business that's less problematic than, charging people for housing, man. Like, I'm sorry, this is a necessary feature of life. Like, everybody needs a place to stay. The idea that we would start an industry based on exploiting this fact is ridiculous. And yes, some of these small landlords are like, you have your one other property and you're renting out to two people. It's a lot different than these mega organizations that own trillions of buildings, and they're just happy they could put masses of people out on the street. Like, I'm not going for that, right? And I just find these people to be some of the least sympathetic people on the planet. Sorry, when you start a business, everybody understands the investment is a risk. You took a risk in lending to these folks and it didn't work out for you. And I'm sorry, the downside of this is that people get to live in an apartment and not have to pay their rents. I'm sorry, this is the risk you took when you got into the business of real estate in the state of California. I'm sorry, I just find it hard in my heart to start boo-hooing for a bunch of freaking landlords. It's just not gonna happen. And last but not least, we're not talking about, the state of West Virginia or Kentucky or something like that, where these rents are affordable. And it's like, come on, man, we're charging you the bare minimum for these rents. We're talking about the Bay freaking area, the highest rents in the nation. So you guys are price gouging the hell out of people for crummy ass apartments and living situations anyway. So yeah, again, these are some of the least sympathetic people on planet Earth.
Right, and they definitely didn't do themselves any favors by celebrating the fact that we can continue to ruin people's lives.
To them, they're just like, look, these lazy freeloaders, they refuse to pay their rent in their end of the bargain. We can start making money on our properties again, going towards our mortgage, yada, 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 yada. That's their viewpoint. They just don't see how disgusted and gilded this whole thing is.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.